Hi, my name is Jeremy Aguila.
Jolene Aguila.
Mary and Hazel A. Abanto.
Abigail P. Agang.
I'm Leslie Alar. Con.
Ricar B. Aguilar.
Monica T. Agravante.
Angeline Ako.
Desired significant learning outcomes. So in this lesson, you are expected to set appropriate instructional objectives for a written test and prepare a table of specifications for a written test. Significant culminating performance task and success indicators. So at the end of the lesson, you should be able to demonstrate your knowledge and skills in preparing a test table of specifications or TOS, reflective of appropriate instructional objectives. You are considered successful in this culminating performance task if you have satisfied the following indicators of success. So it says that if you are satisfied to the following indicators of success, you are considered as successful in this culminating performance. So these are the following indicators of success. So in performance task, select the right assessment objectives for a written test. In success indicators, in a set of competencies defined in the K-12 curriculum of a chosen subject area. You should be able to select the right learning competencies that could be assessed through a written test. So the other one, performance task, design a table of specifications for a written test. And the success indicators, design a table of specifications for one quarterly test, covering the chosen competencies for testing in the K-12 curriculum document referred to for instruction. So, the table of specification has a purpose. So, what are the purpose of table of specification? So, the TOS or table of specifications provides a two-way chart to help teachers relate their instructional objectives. So, the cognitive level of instruction and the amount of the test that should assess each objective. And also, it provides framework for making decisions on test content.
Prerequisite of this lesson: the setting of learning objectives for an assessment of a course or subject area, of the construction of a table specification for a classroom test require specific skills and experience to successfully perform the above culminating performance task. You should be able to distinguish the different levels of cognitive behaviors and identify the appropriate assessment method for them. It assumes that in this lesson, the competences for instruction that are cognitive and that are ones you can identify as the targets in developing or written tests. Targets, which should be reflected in the test table of specification that you are create. Ang prerequisite of this lesson ay may kanya-kanyang level para maintindihan na kailangan i-obtain before progressing to something new to be success to perform the task assessment.
What are the objectives for testing? In developing a written test, the cognitive behavior of learning outcomes are usually targeted. For the cognitive domain, it is important to identify the levels of behavior expected from the student. Traditionally, Bloom's taxonomy was used to classify learning objectives based on the levels of complexity and specificity of the cognitive behaviors, with knowledge at the base. The categories progress to comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. However, Anderson and Krathwohl, Bloom's student and research partner, respectively came up with a revised taxonomy in which the nouns used to represent the levels of cognitive behavior were replaced by verbs, and the synthesis and evaluation were switched. The table of specification is a two-way chart which describes the topics to be covered by a test and the number of items or points which will be associated with each topic. Sometimes, the types of items are described as well. What is a table of specification? A table of specification, TOS, sometimes called a test blueprint, is a tool used by teachers to design a test. It is a table that maps out the test objectives, contents, or topic covered by the test. The level of cognitive behavior to be measured, the distribution of items, number, placement, and weights of test. Items in the test format, it helps ensure that the course's intended learning, outcomes, assessment, and instruction are aligned. Generally, the TOS is prepared before a test is created. However, it is ideal to prepare one even before the start of instruction. Teachers need to create a TOS for every test that they intend to develop. The test TOS is important because it does the following. Ensures that the instructional objectives and what the test captures match. Ensures that the test developer will not overlook details that are considered essential to a good test. Makes developing a test easier and more efficient. Ensures that the test will sample all important content, areas, and processes. Is useful in planning and organizing. Offers an opportunity for a teacher and student to clarify achievement expectation.
The general steps in developing a table of specifications. For you to be able to understand deeply those steps or things that you need to do if you are going to develop this kind of table in the near future. So, since we are at the preparational stage of a teaching practice, we need to deeply analyze the important matter about planning a written test because it is very necessary in our future profession, which is a teacher. So what are the general steps in developing a table of specification? Learner assessment within the framework of a classroom instruction requires planning and strategic thinking, most especially on what particular approach or strategies does a teacher need to demonstrate or undertake to its learners effectively while they are on its learning area. So, in developing a table of specifications, we need to follow different steps because it is our main guide to create an effective instruction or strategies, particularly in the classroom. We need to think critically because the students' understanding and learning is a must be considered or something to consider. The first step in developing a table of specification is determine the objectives of the test, wherein it should be always based on the instructional objectives. Mainly, the instructional objectives or the intended learning outcome are recognized at the first start, especially when a teacher generates a course syllabus. So, this step should always be based on the instructional objectives, dapat. So, dapat kung gagawa tayo ng table of specification, the instructional objective ay tugma sa kung anong gusto nating maging outcome, and dapat sa simula pa lang ay nandoon na or be specific na or nakikilala na kaagad or nare-recognize na kaagad ng student yung kung ano ang gusto nating maging outcome ng ating lesson. Under the determine the objectives of the test, we have three objectives, which is may iba-ibang purpose. The first objective is the cognitive objective, wherein it is designed to increase an individual's knowledge, understanding, and awareness. So, this objective, in short, sa pag-develop ng isang table of specification, dapat kinoconsider ang objective na ito because it is really important, most especially to each individual or to the learner on how as a teacher will help those learner to develop their awareness, lalong-lalo na sa mga bagay-bagay sa paligid on how the learners will adapt, understand, and kung paano ba sila magkaroon ng significant knowledge. That's the main purpose of this objective, which is to develop the learner's mentality. The other objective is affective objective. This objective aims to change an individual's attitude. So, the main focus of the second objective is the value. Teacher need to consider each individual values and behavior. By the help of this objective, the teacher will guide on how or what particular learning strategies that he or she need to demonstrate that will or can help or change the values or yung hindi ka nais-nais na pag-uugali ng isang mag-aaral ay mababago or ma-change into a desirable or yung positibo at kanais-nais. Kumbaga, the second objective ay nagfo-focus ito kung paano makaka-contribute ang isang teacher kung paano ma-change or mabago yung attitude ng isang mag-aaral. Halimbawa, kung ang attitude ng isang mag-aaral ay walang respeto, this objective will guide or enlighten the student na maging desirable ang kanyang pag-uugali. The last objective is psychomotor objective, wherein this objective is made or created to build physical and motor skills. So, the main purpose or focus of this last objective is to enhance the skills of the learners, especially on how to be a productive and creative. Most especially those students that has a full potential in a particular skill or ability to be better or enhance better their unique feature. So this third objective is more on focus, lalong-lalo na dun sa mga bata or mga bata na mayroong mga hidden talents or skills na hindi mailabas. This objective will help the teacher kung paano niya mas mamumold yung skills ng isang student or paano na ito maipapakita or mailalabas yung galing ng isang learner. So, those three objectives that I've said early will serve as a guide to help the teacher on enhancing on how he or she enhance the student's mentality, attitude or values, and skills, which are the important fundamentals that needed to be developed in every learners. Important note, when we planning for an assessment in the near future, we should choose only the objectives that can be best captured by a written test for us to determine and achieve the main goal or our main goal, especially of our assessment. The goal should be clear, purposive, effective, and significant, not just in a learner, but also in the teacher.
Determine the coverage of the test. Determine the coverage of the test. Test coverage is the process you use to determine whether you're testing everything you're supposed to test. It's allow you to check the quality of your testing by finding areas that are current covered. Test coverage helps you develop tests for those areas, increasing the overall quality of your test unit. For determine the coverage of the test, ito po ay process ang ginagamit mo upang matukoy kung sinusubukan mo ang lahat ng dapat mong subukan. For the example, kung mayroon kang 10,000 na linya ng code na dapat mong subukan ng inyong mga test case, ang buong code base, tapos 5,000 lang na linya ng code ang susuriin mo sa 10,000 na code. Di ang magiging saklaw o range na ay 50% na lang. It means kulang kasi mayroon kang 10,000 na linya ng code tapos 5,000 lang na linya ang code ang susurin mo. It means hindi mo sinubukan lahat ng dapat mo subukan. The next step in creating the TOS is to determine the contents of the test. What are the steps in making TOS? There are 3 steps are involved in creating a table of specification. Number 1, choosing the measurement goal and domain to be covered. Number 2, breaking the domain into a key or fairly independent parts, concept, terms, procedures, application, and number 3, constructing the table. Let's proceed to calculate the weight of each topic. Calculate the weight of each topic. Weighted average is a calculation that makes into account the varying degrees of importance of the numbers in a dataset. In calculating the weighted average, each number in the dataset is multiplied by a predetermined weight before the final calculation is made. A weighted average can be more accurate than a simple average in which all numbers and dataset are assigned an identical weight. Ang weighted average ay isang kalkulasyon na sinasaalang-alang ang iba't ibang antas ng kahulugan ng mga numbers sa isang set ng data. At sa calculate naman ng weight average, dapat daw po ay sa bawat numbers sa set ng data ay imamultiply sa isang paunang itutukoy na timbang bago gawin ang panghuling kalkulasyon. Let's proceed for the example of table of specification. Topic: theories and concept. Number of session 0.5 class session, and the time spent is 30 minutes, and percent of time or width is 10.0. For the visual analytic theories naman, ang number of session niya is is 1.5 class session, and the time spent naman is 90 minutes, and percent of time is 30.0. For the trade juries naman, ang number of session niya naman is 1 class session, and time spent niya is 60 minutes, and percent of time is 20.0. For the humanistic juries naman po, ang number of session niya is 0.5 class session. Ang time spent naman po is 30 minutes. Ang percent of time niya naman po is 10.0. Ang cognitive juries naman po, ang number of session niya is 0.5 class session. And time spent niya naman po is 30 minutes. Ang percent of time niya naman po is 10.0. Dito po sa yan sa topic number 1, theories and concept. Sa theories and concept po, kaya naging 0.5 class session ang number of session niya kasi si percent of time is dinivide sa hours. It means 30 minutes of equivalent to 5 hours. Kaya naging 5 divided by 10 is equal to 0.5 class session. Kaya si juries niya and concept. For the time spent naman po, kaya naging 30 minutes siya kasi tig-divide po si 300 sa 10. Kaya ang answer is 30 minutes sa time spent. Let's proceed to the percent of time ng juries and concept. Dito naman po, dinivide naman po si time spent sa total time spent. Kaya po, nakuha ang 10.0 ng percent of time. Yung 300 divide mo sa 30 divide mo sa 300 is equal to 10. Yan, naging 10.0. And then po sa ibang choice naman po, ganyan din po yung gagawin nyo. Yung i-divide, then times sa 100 para makuha yung total.
Determine the number of items for the whole test. As a general rule, students are given 30 to 60 seconds for each item in test formats with choices. For 1 hour class, this means that the test should not exceed 60 items. However, you need also to give time for test paper distribution and giving instructions. The number of items should be less, maybe just 50 items. Tukuyin ang bilang ng mga item para sa buong pagsusulit. Bilang pangkalahatang tuntunin, binibigyan ang mga mag-aaral ng 30 hanggang 60 segundo para sa bawat item sa mga format ng pagsusulit na may mga pagpipilian. Para sa isang oras na klase, nangangahulugan ito na ang pagsusulit ay hindi dapat lumampas sa 60 mga item. Gayunpaman, kailangan mo ring magbigay ng oras para sa pagsusulit na papel, pamamahagi at pagbibigay ng mga tagubilin. Ang bilang ng mga item ay dapat na mas kaunti, marahil 50 mga bagay lamang. Okay, I repeat, the total number of test items should be determined. In tests with choices, students typically have between 30 and 60 seconds for each item. This means that the test should not contain more than 60 items per a 1 hour class. However, since you also need to allow time for the distribution of test papers and provide instructions, the test should contain fewer items, perhaps just 50 items. Determine the number of items per topic. To determine the number of items to be included in the test, the weights per topic are considered. Thus, using the examples above, for 60 items final test, theories and concepts, humanistics theories, cognitive theories, behavioral theories, and social learning theories will have 5 items. Trait theories, 10 items, and psychoanalytic theories 15 items. Go. Tukuyin ang bilang ng mga items sa bawat paksa. Upang matukoy ang bilang ng mga item na isasama sa pagsusulit, ang mga timbang sa bawat paksa ay isinasarang-alang. Kaya gamit ang mga halimbawa sa itaas para sa 60 item na panghuling pagsusulit: theories and concept, humanistic theories, cognitive theories, behavioral theories, at social learning theories, ay magkakaroon lamang ng 5 item. Trait theories ay 10 item at ang psychoanalytic theories ay 15 item. Decide how many items each topic will have. The ranks assigned to each topic are taken into account when deciding how many items will be on the test. Consequently, based on the aforementioned examples, a final test with 60 items will have 5 items, each for theories and concept, humanistic theories, cognitive theories, behavioral theories, and social learning theories. 10 items each for trait theories, and 15 items each for psychoanalytic theories.
One-way TOS. A one-way TOS maps out the content or topic, test objectives, number of hours spent, and format, number, and the placement of items. These objectives without considering the different levels of cognitive behaviors. However, a one-way TOS cannot ensure that all levels of cognitive behaviors that shall have been developed by a course are covered in the test. And this one-way TOS maps out the topic, or we need to divide it into the test objectives, number of hours, format, and placement of items, and also the number of percent of items. Para ma-measure natin ang topic at ang important lesson to teach on the learners. Kaya meron tayong table of specification kasi dito natin na-measure yung mga kailangan i-lesson para sa ating mga learners. Here are the examples of one-way TOS. Topic, theories and concept, test objectives, recognize important concept and personality theories, number of hours 0.5, formats and placement of items, multiple choice items, number 1 up to 5, number and percent of items, 5 or equivalent to 10.0%. Psychoanalytic theories. Identify the different theories or personality under the psychoanalytic model. Number of hours 1.5, formats and placement of items, multiple choice, item numbers 6 up to 20. Number and percent of items 15 or 30.0%. Total number of hours 5, number and percent of items 50 or 100%.
A two-way table of specification reflects not only the content, time spent, and the number of items, but also the level of cognitive behavior targeted per test content based on the theory behind cognitive testing. For example, the common framework for testing at present in the DepEd classroom assessment policy is the revised Bloom's Taxonomy, DepEd number 2015. One advantage of this format is that it allows one to see the levels of cognitive skills and dimensions of knowledge that are emphasized by the test. It also shows the framework of assessment used in the development of the test. However, this format is more complex than the one-way format. So what is the two-way table of specification? In Tagalog, a two-way table of specification ay sumasalamin hindi lamang sa nilalaman, oras na ginugugol at bilang ng mga items, kundi pati na rin sa mga antas ng cognitive behavior na nakatarget or ang layunin nito ay nakatarget sa bawat nilalaman ng assessment batay sa theory of cognitive testing. So ito rin ay mas komplikado kumpara sa one-way TOS. So, paano nga ba tayo gagawa ng two-way table of specification? So, how we will going to make a two-way table of specification? So, first, we need to decide what categories of skills we are going to use, or much better when we going to use the Bloom's Taxonomy cognitive domain. So, dito, kailangan natin mag-decide kung anong categories ang ating gagamitin. Pero much better kung gagamit tayo ng Bloom's Taxonomy. And second, decide what items number you will assign for question or items that cover a particular objectives in our particular skills category. So, dito kailangan natin mag-decide ng number of items na particularly sa objectives and particular skills category natin. So, what is our skills category? So, we have the knowledge category, the comprehension category, and the application category. So, I have here an example situation or an example ways on how to make a table of two-way table of specification. I have here 8 items that cover objectives that I will be assigned items number 1 to 8. So the item number 1 to 2 will cover the knowledge category. So the items 3 to 5 will cover the comprehension category, and so the items 6 to 8 will cover the application category. So we have all the numbers, the items numbers of the categories, and so we have also the total numbers of items for a particular objective topics. So we need to divide it by the total numbers of items, then multiply by 100 to get the total percent of items. I repeat, we need to divide it by the total numbers of items, then multiply by 100 to get the total number of items for a particular objectives. And that is how we're going to make a two-way table of specification. So let's move on to the three-way table of specification. So what is a three-way table of specification? So this is type of TOS that reflects the features of one-way and two-way TOS. One advantage of this format is that it challenges the test writer to classify objectives based on the theory behind the assessment. It also shows the variability of thinking skills targeted by the test. However, it takes a much longer to develop this type of TOS. So, ito daw ay nagre-reflect ng one-way and two-way TOS. So, ano yung advantage nito? Ito raw ay china-challenge niya yung test writer na i-classify yung mga objectives based on the theory behind the assessment. So, it also allows daw the variability of thinking skills targeted by the test. Pero, ito ay mas matagal gawin kaysa sa two-way and the one-way TOS. So, mas matagal ito kumpara sa dalawang naunang TOS. So, why do we need to know TOS? Bakit nga ba kailangan nating malaman ang paggawa ng table of specification? So, based on my research, kailangan and based on the last time we discussed in our virtual discussion in our subject, so we need to know how to make a table of specification for us, because it is a tool guide which guide every educators to make their own assessment or a test. So, ito ay magiging guide para sa ating mga future educators and also to those educators para gumawa ng ating sariling test or assessment. So, let's move on. So, what is the content or ano nga ba yung mga nilalaman ng three-way TOS? So, first, we have day content, number of days, target, the number of items, the percent of items, and that category. So, in the category, we have the level of behavior, item format, number, and placement, which is remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluate, create, and the last, percentage. So, how we're going to get the number of items? To get the number of items, we need to sure it all to get the total, also in the number of items. So, we need to determine the areas exam. After determining the topic, we have to determine the duration of its topic. Different areas, so we have to determine the test type of each objectives. Next, so now, we have created a TOS for our test aligning our objectives, or the Bloom's taxonomy, to determine the test type to testing objectives. And to get the percentage, we have to divide the duration time to the total minutes and multiply by 100 and so on. To percentage, we need to get the whole number and round it up to get the total percent. And when we add the whole percentage, it will show us the 100%, and that is how we made a three-way table of specification.